Now, I have the honor to present our first speaker, Dr. Wagih Aclimandos. He is the president of the European Society of Ophthalmology, also the president of the UEMS section of ophthalmology, and he's a member of the advisory committee of the European Board of Ophthalmology. Today, he will discuss about how supranational organizations are readapting and leading the ophthalmology training in Europe. Thank you so much, Dr. Wagih.
Dear friends and colleagues, I would like to congratulate you all for keeping the SOE flag flying and for all the hard work, particularly in those challenging circumstances. I must thank in particular Miguel for all the fantastic contribution he has done to the SOE-YO, and welcome Elena as your new leader. Thank you for inviting me to share with you an update on the response of multinational societies to the recent crises. I hope that you didn't have too much trouble joining us on Zoom. I confess that I find Zoom meetings reminding of seances as seen in films where departed souls are called to join a gathering. It is great that we finally see the end of this pandemic approaching and the end of the distancing and the beginning of return to normality. I confess that I do have second thoughts about repeated vaccinations. I do look forward to that free pizza, of course. But on the other hand, there are disadvantages with the summer approaching. We have been through very difficult times. We went through forced experiments. When it comes to small meetings, like the SOE executive, Zoom is great. It's a very efficient use of time and finances. The executive agrees with me that we should enlarge the executive, and obvious additions would be the YO and EU LDP leaders. This will be proposed at the forthcoming board meeting. However, when it comes to larger meetings, like board meetings or general assemblies, it is not ideal to use Zoom. It is an inadequate replacement to face-to-face interactions and discussions. Many ideas are fertilized through unofficial chats over coffee or tea or a meal. Getting to know new people and inject new blood is crucial. Under the circumstances, we decided to extend the term of office of board members by 2 years. Of course, there are financial savings to be made, but using Zoom has many disadvantages that are far greater than the benefits. Indeed, there is a need for disagreement or even conflict. I certainly learn more from people who disagree with me than those who agree, provided, of course, the debates are rational and respectful. As you know, the 2021 SOE Congress was initially deferred and subsequently cancelled. There were many hours of discussions as the pandemic evolved. Decisions were at times difficult. We essentially need a good 6-month period of stability ahead of the Congress to ensure that we have the support of pharma and allow time for delegates to confidently book flights and hotels. As you know, we kept the SOE flag flying by instating the series of webinars that turned out to be a great success. Indeed, we might consider going on with such 7 webinars on the alternate year where there is no Congress. Many of you may be aware that various exams were cancelled and then deferred and inevitably modified. This applies to many, including the Royal College of the UK and the EBO exams. EBO subspecialty exams are still on hold. The hybrid format was eventually quite successful, but not ideal due to the lack of true clinical cases or the face-to-face discussions during an oral examination. There are definitely lessons to be learned and potential for new practices to be adopted on the long term. The European Assessment Committee for CM had to adapt and speed up its process in response to the requests of online meetings. It incurred, of course, some essential losses, but is now back to pre-pandemic level of activity. One is very relevant to your group is ETR, or European, the hands of the EBO Educational Committee. I encourage you to get involved and communicate your thoughts. My personal advice is to seek the input of European subspecialty societies. It is important for ophthalmology to mark its territory. It is a big task, and in my opinion, will require sense of cultural and socio-economical differences. It is preferable to have realistic demands and expectations and make progress, rather than demand everything and get nothing. Well, marriage is one of few exceptions where hope triumphs over common sense. So my advice is be realistic. Now, I have to share with you the current challenge of how to react to the dreadful events in Ukraine. This is the reading eye. But what can we do? The obvious is absolute rejection of Russian aggression, support of our Ukrainian colleagues, and practical help through donations and contributions to various initiatives. The SOE received a message from a national delegate specifically objecting to punishing Russian ophthalmologists. A unanimous statement of the executive reflecting that view was subsequent increase in aggression and divided views internationally and within the SOE means that the decision to suspend Russian society was necessary, and we agreed that pending a vote at the board meeting. Remember that the SOE was founded in 1956 as the Societas Ophthalmologica Europea, with the aim to promote ophthalmology in Europe and to stimulate cooperation between European ophthalmologists and between their national societies. A Latin name was specifically chosen by our founding fathers to emphasize its supranational nature, an important issue in post-war Europe. The concept was stay out of politics. Now, the situation is quite complicated. For instance, I can share with you a letter from Alison Mitchell, Chief Journal Officer, advising editors to make sure that there is no discrimination against Russian authors, even if it entails changing the editors. And here is the text of her letter. So she does appreciate that this may be a difficult decision for editors, but all the same, we cannot afford to discriminate. So I'd like to leave you with some food for thought. There are, of course, differences between societies and individual memberships, political and academic activities, seniors and juniors, etc. Bear in mind that we have learned to expect the unexpected. Other conflicts with more divided opinions may arise in the future. Conflicts may involve the country of the president or executive members. We could find ourselves having to make very difficult decisions. Ideally, it would make sense to keep out of politics. Decisions to be made by the board, and this is what we've decided. So in summary, there is widespread agreement about the rejection of Russian aggression. There will be differences in opinion on strategy and how to react. Democracy is about agreeing with the majority and still respecting differences without hurting others or questioning their values. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader. Sell ice cream instead. Well, see you all face to face and happy at happier times. I leave you with a thought from Albert Einstein. We were not born to be robots. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you very much, dear Wagih. We will have a chance to discuss this presentation at the end of the webinar.